Welcome to Hope is Here. My name is Greg Horn. We are continuing our look at the book of Jeremiah. We've been in a series that we have named Called, Broken, and Hopeful. And we've been looking this week at Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 4 through 14, and what we can learn from that season with Jeremiah when he was trying to help the people while they were held captive for 70 years in Babylon, and just an unbelievably challenging season of life. And yesterday we kind of looked at some of the background for that, and the first lesson that we learned was that God has a purpose even in a season of exile, like the people were there in Babylon for 70 years. So if you missed yesterday's program, hope you go to our website, hopeisheretoday.org. That's hopeisheretoday.org, and listen to that 14-minute program. Also, it's available on our YouTube channel. Simply Hope is Here, and my name, Greg Horn, Horn. Hope you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would greatly appreciate it. But we looked yesterday, the first lesson was God's purpose in the exile. The second place where I want to pick up is another lesson we can learn from this passage in Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 4 through 14. The second thing we can learn is that we need to bloom where we're planted. Bloom where we're planted. You know, he talks about in verses 5 through 7 in Jeremiah chapter 29, build houses and settle down, seek the peace and the prosperity of the city. He tells the people to plant gardens, to raise families, even while they're in this exile. And you know, sometimes, friends, kind of a surprising truth is that God doesn't always promise escape, but we can still flourish in peace. And, you know, sometimes when we're in seasons and places we don't want to be, we still need to be a blessing. We always need to be a blessing wherever we are, not just when we're in a place where we want to be. And, you know, friends, here's the deal. You know, God calls us to do work in the good of our communities, even when they're unfamiliar or hostile. I love how Francis Chan says this. He says, the Bible teaches that true joy is formed in the midst of the difficult seasons of life. We'll share that again. The Bible teaches that true joy is formed in the midst of the difficult seasons of life. You know, maybe you're in a difficult season of life. You feel like you're in a season of exile, like the people were in Jeremiah chapter 29, and it feels like 70 years, even though it may have been only 7 days or 7 weeks or 7 months or maybe even 7 years. And yet, I heard this acronym many, many years ago. I wish I could remember the pastor that said it, but I don't remember. But I love this acronym for joy, J-O-Y. If you want to have joy in your life, letter J, put Jesus first. Letter O, then put others. And then put yourself third. When you put Jesus first, others second, yourself third, you'll have joy. But man, when we focus on ourselves only and run everything through the filter of how's this affect me, what's in it for me, it's hard to have joy. So I want to encourage you today to implement that. Say, Lord, I want to have joy in my life, so I'm going to put you first. Look, see where you're working and join you in it. Put others next, and then myself third. And you'll be amazed at how much quicker you'll have joy and sooner and peace in your hearts. And it's just so true. It's totally contrary to what the world tells us, right? But remember, God's ways are not man's ways. We talked about that yesterday in Isaiah chapter 55, verses 8 and 9. His thoughts and ways are not our thoughts and our ways. Joyce Meyer says, we must remember there are different seasons in our lives and let God do what he wants to do in each of these seasons. We've talked about that winter, spring, summer, and fall. We all have different seasons of life. And sometimes, even though it may be 60, 70 degrees, you're not in winter season, but it feels like it's a winter season of life because things are just dark and they're discouraging and they're painful. And just want to remind you, friends, that God is teaching us things. Instead of asking why, ask him what. Instead of asking why, God, did you allow this happen, ask God, what is it you're trying to teach me during this season of exile? You know, for me, one of those seasons that made me reflect back to was in the year of 1997 after the flood had happened up in Cynthiana, and I went $2 million in debt overnight with my business, a supermarket there that I own in Cynthiana. And somebody came up to me and said, hey, we'd like to start a Relay for Life to help raise money for the American Cancer Society. And my brother's an oncologist, so I know and hear a lot about just so many people suffering with cancer, and we've all been impacted by cancer. And so, even though I was super busy owning a supermarket with almost 100 employees, doing almost $10 million a year in sales, I just felt like the Holy Spirit said, I want you to be the chairperson for this first Relay for Life up in Cynthiana, Kentucky for Harrison County. And so I did that because I really felt like I needed to do something to get my mind off myself and my pity party and just always, woe is me. And so I put together a committee and got some sponsors. My store, we were a sponsor. And we started the first Relay for Life for the American Cancer Society. And they said, it's a first-year place. Usually for a town your size, we set a $10,000 goal. It's a little bit of a stretch for your area, but let's just see what happens. And if you don't get it, that's okay. You got to start somewhere. So we set a goal of $10,000, and we had the first Relay for Life there in Harrison County in Cynthiana, Kentucky. And I tell you, it's just amazing how people responded. And I can remember walking around the track and the luminaries that were there, and just people gave testimonies and sharing loved ones in remembrance and in honor of, and people that had survived cancer. It was one of the most powerful moments of my life, to be honest with you, just seeing all these people in the community of Cynthiana that was so devastated by that flood. And we came together that one night and just put all that together, what had just happened about 4 months earlier. And we just focused on those loved ones that had suffered from cancer, or rejoiced for those who had survived. And it was just a beautiful moment. And it was unbelievable. After that 24-hour Relay for Life was over, we raised over $35,000. I mean, as Dick Vitale would say, are you serious? And my goodness, friends, it just it brings tears to my eyes now thinking about that moment, how the society and people that had lost everything, people were just scraping and just sacrificing and giving, and that we just blew that $10,000 goal out of the water. And it really helped bring that community together. And as the chairperson there, it really was just a moment I'll never forget in my life. And there was a full page feature on it in the Cynthiana newspaper, and just pictures and comments, and I've got that framed. I have it hanging in my office at home because I don't ever want to forget that moment. And so sometimes we're in exile, friends, we can have joy and find joy, and that's how I found it, even though I was $2 million in debt overnight because of a flood just a few months earlier. A third thing that we can learn from Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 4 and 14 is don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. Talks about that in verses 8 and 9. Do not let your prophets and fortune tellers who are with you in the land of Babylon trick you. And, friends, in our day and age, maybe we still do have fortune tellers for sure. Maybe not as many prophets, even though there are some people that think they're prophets. But one of the things that I think we struggle with is just people telling us these quick fixes and easy money schemes and things like that. And I always think back to the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. And, friends, the truth is, God's timing may be slower than ours, but it's always wiser and better, isn't it? In Jeremiah chapter 27, verse 14, it says, wait patiently for the Lord. Be brave and courageous. Yes, wait patiently for the Lord. Friends, I have to be reminded to wait patiently. But I want to remind you, waiting is not an inactive season. And just like the middle part of that verse in Psalm 27:14, if you're going to wait, you got to be brave and you got to be courageous. It's a choice to do that. And so I just want to encourage you, friends, to wait patient, wait for the Lord to act, and not to be deceived with quick get-rich schemes. A fourth thing that we can learn a lesson from Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 4 through 14 is the promise of hope. The promise of hope. In verses 10 and 11, it says, this is what the Lord says, when 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you and fulfill my good promise to bring you back to this place. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. I'm about ready to rock some of your worlds. I know a lot of us love that verse. Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, about plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. But friends, the word prosper in this context, the Hebrew word translated actually here is shalom. And the meaning of shalom here, prosper, is peace, wholeness, and well-being, safety, health, and completeness. Flourishing in every aspect of life, not just financial. Now, sometimes it could be financial prosperity, and God's done that in seasons of my life. But for the most part, it's more about God's talking about having peace, wholeness, and well-being, and health and completeness. And, I love that song from Passion called "The Lord Will Provide." Oh, friends, he loves to provide for his kids, and he'll do it all the time. And, God's plan is for his people to experience peace, restoration, and well-being in relationship with him, even though they were in exile at the time. They're in Babylon for 70 years. And, friends, God's plans are rooted in his character. It's faithful, it's good, and he's sovereign. And, friends, you can trust God's heart even when you don't see his hand. Say it again. You can trust God's heart even when you don't see his hand. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6 says, "Trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge God, and he will make your path straight." Tony Evans says, "Sometimes God lets you be in a situation that only he can fix so that you can see that he is the one who fixes it. Rest today. God's got it." Corrie ten Boom, a powerful woman of God, a wonderful missionary, said, "Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God." And I'm so thankful, friends, that when we're in those tough seasons and just needing some hope, Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 and 25 reminds us, "Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. For his compassions, they never fail. They are new every morning, and great is your faithfulness, Lord. So I will say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him." Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. "Do not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time you will reap a harvest if you do not give up." And I think one of Satan's greatest tools is discouragement. And friends, some of you are so close to a breakthrough. Do not give up. Just like Galatians 6:9 tells us, because you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. And the fifth and final lesson I think we can learn from Jeremiah chapter 29 is found in verses 12 through 14. We've been hanging our hat. It's been the foundation for this series we did this summer on Mondays and Tuesdays in Jeremiah. In Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 12 through 14, it says, "Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Then I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and I will bring you back from captivity." Friends, we can stand on God's promise that God will be found by those who seek him with all their hearts. Friends, we can be in relationship with God. His plans for us is to lead us not just to relief, but into a relationship with him. In our hope, God promises restoration, not just of fortunes, but also in fellowship relationship with him. And I want to encourage you today to turn your heart fully to God, because he longs to be found. So to summarize what we've learned on Monday and Tuesday this week, you may feel like you're in exile, far from your ideal life, but God is present. Friends, God is shaping you in the waiting into the image of his one and only Son, Jesus. And he's growing you in this season of hardship and promising you a future rooted in his goodness. And friends, I'm learning that God's plans are about hope, not hurry. Trust him today with the process. And I close today with one of my favorite quotes by Albert Einstein. "Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow." My name's Greg Horn, and you are listening to Hope is Here.